like the biggest idea, concept, transformational thing in your head that you've heard today?
I was talking to Rajiv during one of the breaks, and we're talking about the notion of the importance to have proper orchestration of the ecosystem. As technology evolves, so our ability to collaborate and create complex ways of working and driving value, and where that kind of management belongs, and talking about, that could be very different depending on the nature of the industry, the sector, the client, and so on. There's no secret answer for that, but we were talking more in general terms about how do you manage a client's desire to take responsibility without having the knowledge. So helping them and let them learn how to fish while you're protecting and avoiding them being exposed in situations that could be otherwise quite challenging. And so
something that I think was very, very interesting to see this morning was Ricky's presentation with all the AI technology, and something that impacted me most is how to see or how to think backwards. So how we can see the past and learn from that. So when he mentioned that we move from workers doing stuff to knowledge worker, that where we are right now, and start to think, okay, my kids, I'm done. I mean, I have my career, etc. But my kid has everything to learn, everything to build. So how we can help them to go into the right direction? What tools can we provide them today to learn how to work in the future? Yeah. Because we don't know how the future looks like. He also mentioned most of the S&P 500 companies didn't exist 10 years ago.
Exactly.
So how do we know how the next school is going to look like, how the next space is going to look like? Actually, one of the things that I try with my son since he started using computers and all of that, I tried to teach him how to code. So I'm a software engineer, and it's something that I think is a great market. I thought that was going to be the future. So if you learn how to code, you have a great success in the future. You can do a lot of money doing this. But I don't think if it's going to remain in that way. AI is going to replace, and we need to find this new challenge.
The most important thing I think the most interesting topic I heard today was actually the legal topic, which is probably catching a lot of people by surprise. But I do enjoy that you insert a legal topic into each one of these. I'm not a lawyer by trade, but at UPS right now, we are pursuing a captive or GCC strategy for IT. And, corruption is everywhere. And we were actually approached by a customs official to pay a bribe to get furniture into a port. So really, we didn't pay it, of course. So still getting in trouble. There's no DOJ people here. But it does happen, and you have to be conscious of it. And it's just a great reminder that, you have an urgency to get your furniture into your building so you can have that opening day. But you know what? If you're missing a couple chairs in the cafeteria, it's better than going to jail. So next to TCS, we have a lot of employees, right? We have 400,000 employees across the world. And I think we were very much an anti-telework company for a very long time. We did not allow our certain levels of our management rank, specifically director and above, to do any teleworking. It was completely not allowed. And during the pandemic, obviously, we were forced to change that mindset. So we went to a 100% remote model. But obviously, our operators and our delivery drivers, right, were out there every day handling record volume. It actually, we were late to have our management return back to the office. And it's actually biting us in the butt a little bit because, as you know, you may have heard, we're in a massive negotiation with one of the largest unions, the Teamsters union right now, to re-sign our master agreement. And a lot of them are saying, hey, well, you guys were working from home for an extended period of time. We were out there every day exposing ourselves and busting our butts. And, you were slow to return to the office. But where we are right now is our corporate office is 3 days requirement in the office. Our IT offices, though, we've changed that to 8 days per month. in the office because we know it's a little bit more of a competitive field, and it's caused a little angst. But there's definitely a culture shock going from working remote and having not been able to do it and then going back into the office. I do see a couple negative things going on. One, I think we've become the culture of now. And I think you may be seeing this in some of your companies where during the pandemic, when your boss reached out to you, you were inclined to pick up the phone right away or respond to the IM right away, because if you didn't, maybe you're goofing off, maybe you're not working. Yeah. And now that we've returned back into the office, it's almost an expectation that you're going to respond to my email immediately. You're going to pick up the phone as soon as I call. And I think that's been a little disruptive.
Well,
and then just a few other dynamics like that. I think that we've become very accustomed to scheduling meetings at 7 a.m. And that worked well when we were all at home. But now some of us have commutes, some of us have children we need to bring to daycare. I think we just need to be a little bit more respectful of that.
can you talk a little bit about that period and adjusting, working with your big global partners, your IT partners? How has that shifted?
So that was an absolute tremendous shift, right? Because UPS, and it's no surprise to a lot of enterprise clients, when it comes to outsourcing, we leverage India. That's probably 80 to 85% of what we do. And most of our India players required their workers to report to the office every day of the week. And during the pandemic, people started to realize, wow, I had a 2-hour commute and now I don't have to do that. This is amazing. And they were actually willing to stretch their day out over longer periods of time. And it actually flew in the face a little bit of the nearshore model, because that was I think major corporations like us miss some of the other benefits of nearshore, like the cultural affinity and things like that. But obviously time zone being one of the critical factors kind of flew in the face of that a little bit. And we actually had 2 of our India providers, not TCS, but we had them offer us what they called a virtual nearshore model. And what was that? They would guarantee that their developer teams would cover the U.S. time zone 3 days per week, and they would offer us a bill rate that was in the middle of Mexico and India. And it was actually quite attractive, and many of our teams decided to pick up that model. It's since dwindled a little bit since people have returned back to the office, but during the pandemic.
We were born as a cloud-based company, but not everything was on the cloud. So we're still having some services running on-premise. For example, we used to deploy computers with Active Directory previous the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and we find out that we couldn't roll out those computers without being in a remote environment. So something that one of the first initiatives our team took for control that was to move into zero-touch provisioning services to deploy computers to our employees. So even during the pandemic, we keep hiring new employees coming every single Monday, and we need to deploy computer to that. So we moved from on-premise ID into Azure ID, and we implement new MDMs using Jamf and Intune to being able to deploy those computers. And then the other thing is we have to change the way that we train and onboard new employees. So before we used to actually fly people to New York, and we were making a big Monday introduction, onboarding for all of them, and we moved to everything remote, and we continue in that way. So, and it's something that changed, I think, in a good way, and it has been working very good for us.
There is a balance, but there is, to Harold's point, some pressure to be immediate on the response. I think that pressure is a little bit tricky sometimes. Not going to deny that. One thing that I think it's important, though, I can say this in this room, we always know who are the good performers and who are the slackers, doesn't matter what they are. It's been kind of my experience. And the other element is that there's 3 things we also know as well. One is that there's work that needs to be done, there's people that need to be trained, and there's logic that needs to be built. If you focus the approach, especially I find with the younger generation, I'm not sure if you guys find the same, what's in for them, how we train them, how we get them engaged, understand what makes them tick, and work with them to develop their skill sets where they want to develop. Their value proposition for work, in my experience, exponentially grows versus just do the job that I ask you to do. Because it changed the dynamic on how the environment actually works. And then you start seeing, okay, who works better together, which kind of, maybe perhaps they're not a great fit to work together. We can find different ways to collaborate. And then you continue to develop people from the ground up. Although the new generation may prefer to engage through digital channels, for example, nothing replaces this, like meeting people, talking to each other. And what I have found is that find the right purpose for people to be together and they'll come forward, not for the food alone, I would say, but like talking, engaging, understanding. It's not just about the work. It's about what they like to do, what things that they matter to them. And once you have that kind of value proposition or perspective for engaging, I think it changed the nature that people collaborate, and then they it's almost like become the self-sufficient model. They want to be together, they want to meet, and you don't need to be policing. There's obviously situations like, as Harold was saying, somebody that is commuting 2 hours. I mean, apply common sense, right? Trust the person knows when they're supposed to be there, and then they'll come forward, in my experience.
Well, we, at least what I'm seeing in Gen Z, what are the new generation coming to work, used to be the millennial, now we move to the next generation. They want to define the how, when, and where they do the job. Right. So there are some people who wants to work after hours because they are more productive over time, or they want to work in their own setup because they have a more special feature or whatever. So we need to find the right balance. And we believe that the future of work is hybrid, and neither extremes are really good. We need to find the right balance for them. So we need to provide them the tools that help them to connect with others. And there is nothing that is going to replace a chat, a small talk when you are taking a coffee at the office, or before starting a meeting, you sit down and start to asking, how was the weekend, or this kind of thing. You lose it when you're working.
Sure.
And we need to help them on building this connection.
Gotcha. What about you, Harry?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Gen Z generation, you're going to struggle to mentor them, whether they're at home or they're in the office. I think it's a culture that's all about flexibility. And I think a lot of us have missed, beyond moving to a remote work and a teleworking type of model, this right here, right? You'd become a mobile-enabled workforce, right? You think about Office 365. What is a conference bridge? Nobody dials into those anymore. We click the Teams link on our phone. We're connected. If we were here 5 years ago, we would be fighting over the wall outlets to plug in our laptops. I see everybody right now holding these. So it's actually, we're working from home, but we're free. We can take a walk around in our yard. Once in a while, there's a bird that's too loud, and someone's like, is that your parakeet? No, it's not my parakeet. But, you can walk around, you can go places and still be productive and still be connected. And that flexibility increases that happiness factor. And I think that's very important to measure, is the happiness factor of your employees. Because if you're bringing them all back into the office and they're miserable, the face-to-face is not really going to do much for their mental health and well-being.
It's almost like you have to be able to know yourself well enough to admit, hey, this feels isolating. I do need to meet a partner to get married someday. I have to go work in the office maybe to figure that out. But then again, if you're in Mexico City and you're like, I don't want to go 2 hours to get to work. So it's always an interesting trade-off. But so I guess, does that make any sense, where there's responsibility of that worker to have to figure out what's going to be best for them?
Many countries, particularly in Europe, are moving to a 4-day work week now versus 5. I know in America, we have 5, but we have like 6.5, I guess, with all the meals and stuff. But basically, it's interesting though, because it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Somebody said that before, how we get people to be engaged, how we get them to collaborate together, the productivity factor, and how do we measure the outcomes. I think we came a long way from being individual basic metrics, not saying they're not important, to be more team-oriented, agile kind of mindset. And that, is allowing us to perhaps carve out activities and things that are better mentally, and hopefully now all this other stuff that needs to come. So
it's very important to focus on the whole employee experience.
Yeah.
So employees are not just coming to the office to do their job or just coming for the salary. They're looking for a whole experience. And some ways that we can help from our side is providing them the right technology that help them to engage and feel part of the whole company and process. But I think there is nothing that is going to replace having this physical meeting and try to get them feel part of the community, part of the company.
Sure.
Is very important.
Let me go. You got a quick.
No, I was just going to say I totally agree on the what is that employee experience, especially when you come into work. And I think companies also have to relook at their real estate, right? I think about the building that I work in, beautiful building, large building, accommodates a lot of employees, built in the 90s. I think it used to be red, the brick, but I think it faded over time because it's pink now. They call it the Pink Palace, but it doesn't really offer any amenities, right? So, in us pursuing a GCC or a captive model in India, we knew that we needed to motivate people to come back to the office. So we looked for a Silicon Valley-esque type of campus environment, to lease a space that had multiple amenities. And we picked one that had a Starbucks, a daycare, a gym, a cricket court, a soccer field, a running track, stuff that would actually make people want to come to work and stay there all day. And I think that's, I think we need to relook at some of these cafeterias that nobody's using and maybe turn them into gyms or, just invest in your place of work and create that employee experience. Google did it with food, right? Putting out the big spreads and stuff. But
yeah, definitely the whole security industry has been turned upside down with the pandemic. So the previous paradigm was, okay, you need to secure your edge. You need to put the biggest firewall as you can. And once you are inside your office, you are completely secure. You can do whatever you want. That is not longer the case. So right now, every single node in your network can be, it could be a data breach, could be a race for something. And companies are turning into more strict or more secure policies. One of the ones that are on the top of most of the CISOs around the world is zero trust policies. So when implementing zero trust policy, you stop trusting that regardless where you are connected, if you are secure or not. By default, you don't trust in any device, in any computer. And you need to demonstrate that you are a secure computer and you have the valid credentials every time you connect. That prevents you to for any cyber attack or data breach, regardless of where you are. If you are working from your corporate office, from a satellite office, or working from home, or from a Starbucks, or from whatever it is.
Got it. Eric?
Yeah, I personally think we're way more vulnerable today, right? I think about, at UPS, we say the biggest defense against, cyber attacks is the human line of defense. And, now that we've moved away from instructor-led training and that sort of thing, it's very easy for people at home to just click through the slides and skip through the training modules just to get to the end and check the box. I also think now that the world is more digitally connected since the pandemic, we've now become more vulnerable to phishing and smishing. And it's very easy when we're in that culture of now that you're just going to be clicking quickly, opening emails quickly, and you click something you shouldn't, and you expose your whole company.
I think there are 3 points very important that we need to define as a manager. I think we need to communicate to our employees in this hybrid environment. The first one is you need to define or communicate clear expectations. So when they are starting working, if it's a new member in your team, you need to define what are the expectations that you as a manager you have coming from them. The secondary is defining their boundaries. So what are the rules of engagement? What are the rules for working? So what are the numbers, metrics, goals that you are expecting coming from them? And the last one is that is something that every company should be doing is you need to build an environment of inclusion. So because you're going to have people or different teams spread or working from different locations, you need to build connection with them. So if this can change from organizing event or trying to create space to connect each other, or just asking them to come to the office and sharing, okay, we're going to be this and these days in the office, and we're going to focus on things that are effective and bring value to the team. And just, I have seen this happening all the time, that people came to the office and you see there are 5 people on the same call and they're split on the same room. And instead to be going to a meeting room and having face-to-face. So if you're having Zoom calls, just don't come to the office. So try to use it in the time in a more appropriate way.
You know how many times my kids have called me on the phone and they're on the second floor and I'm on the first floor?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
the only other
thoughts on this question,
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to add is, there's 2 ends of the spectrum. There's companies that are tracking the number of badge swipes that the employees do into the building, how much time they were actually in the office. There's companies that have invested in remote surveillance products so that they can look at how long screens are up, how long employees are in the development environment versus surfing the internet. So there's just 2 ends of the spectrum. You don't want to be that company.
if this worker says, the developer says, look, I'm doing everything you told me to do. Maybe I'm doing even more. And I happen to do it in X 6.5 hours, 4.5 hours. What's wrong with me moonlighting for somebody else?
Just one point that I think is important, right? The contractual obligations that he has with the company. So being clear about, you are mutually exclusively working with us. If you want to do contract work with me, have a different avenue that allows you to do that. But the moment that you are diverging from that it doesn't help the employee, because it may form the ground for termination down the road for them in a much worse situation, right? So I don't think the market self-regulates. And to your point, where we can promote opportunities to be equal to everyone, I think is every company responsibility to do so. Obviously, companies have constraints as well, but at least the companies that I work for, I know they pretty much drive that because they advertise this, right?
Yeah, I think there is a corporate responsibility in every single company to provide opportunities to everyone.
Got it. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, panelists. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.